Hi, welcome to the Candidates Forum. I'm Kelly Jamison, joined by Maria Pacheco. She is your Las Cruces School Board candidate in District 5. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Yay, I'm happy to be here again.
Why don't you recap? This is our second time visiting in the Candidates Forum. Talked a lot about your candidacy, sort of your platforms. Would you recap quickly again why, who you are, a little bit of your background, and why you chose to run for school board?
I am Maria Pacheco. I have been living in the beautiful Las Cruces community for the past 25 years, married to my hubby Steve. We've got one son, Gabriel, who is a graduate of Centennial High School. I've been a business owner this entire time, self-employed business insurance agent. And over the last 25 years, I've dedicated myself to charitable organizations, PTOs, booster clubs, students and teachers of this community, raising money for them and giving resources back to them.
I think you probably sold yourself a little short because we discussed your lengthy involvement in the community, and to the extent that you have been so successful in fundraising. What were some of those projects, and if you could be a little less humble and attach a dollar amount to that?
Well, like I said, I've been doing it for 25 years. I've been with the Las Cruces Public Schools Foundation Junior League. Mm-hmm. Every PTO that my son went to school, so Hillrise, Zia, and then Centennial, mm-hmm. been involved in those organizations. I have worked very diligently with a lot of wonderful people in this community, mm-hmm. and helped raise on a conservative side about $750,000 for the students and teachers of this area. So yeah, we've busted our booty here, so we've done pretty good.
That is a lot of hard work, yeah. And a lot of credit to you to be able to raise such a huge amount of money that made a deep impact in this community. One of the platforms that you've sort of based your campaign off of for school board has been fiscal accountability and transparency. And it's no secret you were a little critical of our former superintendent. Could you explain to voters what led up to that criticism? There's some history with Columbia Elementary, and again, your diligence in fiscal accountability, how that sort of plays into why you're trying to get the vote for School Board District 5.
Well, with the whole Columbia situation, that's how my involvement got started with running for school board. Is I feel the lack of transparency in the decision-making process to keep the kids at Centennial High School. When the school first had to close, Columbia first had to close, and they had to be placed somewhere, everybody was very supportive of the move to Centennial. And the parents and staff and students of Centennial were very welcoming, and the community was very welcoming to the students. It was after that when they decided to keep the kids at Columbia for the next few years while Columbia is being rebuilt, that kind of set off some red flags as far as why that decision was reached. When we went publicly to the school board, there was a public forum. There was hundreds of parents, students, concerned citizens, asking the school board why Centennial, why that decision had been made. And in discussing at that school board meeting, the school board and the former superintendent said, the reason why is because Centennial is the only place that has the room for the kids. So we asked what other avenues, what other circumstances had been considered, and the cost associated with each of those. Because as the district, as the community, we are paying for that. Right. So it's a good idea when you're making decisions that impact the entire district that you have a dollar amount. Sure. That goes with that decision.
There's no bottomless pit of money.
Well,
as taxpayers, we contribute to it, and it would make sense that here are your options. Here's what each of those costs.
Right, and here's why we decided this. So that number could never be determined. That number was never disclosed. They never said how much it was going to cost to redistrict them, possibly look into renting another facility, maybe putting them at Rio Grande Prep and having those kids go to Centennial. Those decisions, as far as I know and as far as what I can figure out, the former superintendent never considered separating the Columbia district, the Columbia community. So My concern, so when we went to the school board, we asked them, what's it going to cost? You know, we're hearing all of these things that are going to happen to to Centennial, which had just, it's 8 years old.
Sure.
Why?
Built for high school students.
Built for high school and state of the art for high school students. Oh my goodness. So what is going to be made? What are the changes that are going to be made? And the superintendent said, it's not going to be that bad. We're lowering urinals. It's a couple of screws. We're moving. We're getting plumbers in there to lower the urinals so they're, little kid size. And that they were going to add some playground equipment, nothing crazy. And we asked them, why can't you move them to maybe a middle school or another elementary school and put portables there? And at that time they were like, oh my God, do you have any idea how much your portables are? It's so expensive. They're $1 billion, and they can say $1 billion. They're lots of money. There's lots of money, and then we don't have the money they cost a lot of money to move them, and we're not going to do that. Centennial has the room. That's where they're going to be.
Do you think they knew what it was going to cost?
I don't think so.
Because it sounds like they were quick to say your suggestion was too much, but the changes that they were willing to make at Centennial, they had no idea what it was going to cost. They made the decision and they were going with it.
Right. I believe that they made the decisions without all the information, and which to me is crazy.
Right.
It really, it's, you can never, I've ran nonprofit budgets, I've served on boards. You decide everything based on your budget,
Sure.
And if you don't have the number, how can you decide what's best?
Budget.
Yeah. So come to find out, Centennial is now home to 6 new portables that they did not have the money to have. I don't believe, as my most current information is, that those portables are not even operable yet. They don't have all the power they need. They don't have the air conditioning and such. There may be a couple of classes in the elective classes, maybe an art and a music class, but they are not really functional. And they've been at Centennial for 3 or 4 months now.
Do you feel, had there been any opportunity in this process for the district and the school board to ask the community, let's come together, let's talk about our options? Was there ever an opportunity to give your input as a former Centennial parent, as somebody who supported those teachers and those PTOs? When was the opportunity for you to give your input?
Well, apparently the opportunity was when they were talking about the rebuilding of Columbia. So that was in the fall of last year. So they were talking, through those few months about what to do with the Columbia property and community. I think I mentioned this in the last forum. Centennial parents were not aware that keeping the kids, the Columbia children, at Centennial was part of that discussion. All the while, they thought that part of the discussion was going to be where to put the kids moving forward for the next 4 years while Columbia is being rebuilt. Right. They really did not understand that the district was planning on keeping them at Centennial.
This whole time.
Yeah.
And it's important to know for people that might be new to the area, that might have just registered to vote, Centennial High School is located on the polar opposite of Columbia. Those Columbia parents right into a new school year had to make some pretty significant changes for transportation. Their child all of a sudden with very little notice was located all day long on the opposite end of town.
And I understand that is what needed to happen that first year.
Sure.
And I'm sure the parents at Columbia said, oh, our kids are not in a school that has mold in it now.
Sure.
Very grateful for that. The district is transporting them, they're busing them and so forth, but for the parents who didn't put their kids on a bus, that's right. A long commute, for sure.
It is a long commute, and for parents like us who work, you get that phone call in the middle of the day that your child's sick, you have to pick them up. There's logistics involved that for a short amount of time, it's realistic, but for long term and for 4 years, I'm sure parents would have enjoyed an opportunity to give input.
I agree.
And again, that fiscal accountability that you talk about, to know the price tag associated with that.
And honestly, I don't know if the Columbia parents had that opportunity to talk about if their kids would stay at Centennial or not. I really, I don't know if that was from what I heard of the town meeting, that part was really never openly discussed with parents about keeping the kids at the high school. This is another thing that I brought up as far as transparency. As a board member, Senora Flores, I believe, should have reached out to her stakeholders in her district, which is Centennial, and said, hey guys, thinking about keeping the kids there. You know, if you have an opinion on this, you probably need to come to the board meetings and voice your opinion about it.
Right.
So that, I'm just wondering, you know, here we are, 5 months down the line, Kelly, and the number that I've heard going around, and this is all hearsay, because I'm not going to, you know, I'm not.
You've never been given the number.
Right, because the number is $800,000 spent at Centennial so far.
To accommodate
These students. That's a lot of change.
It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
As a candidate for school board, and if you had sat on that school board, what would have been your priorities for those parents faced with this dilemma, and how would you have facilitated a better conversation with the community about this?
I for sure would have asked, how much? How much? Okay, you want to keep the community together? How much to keep them at Centennial? How much to rent or buy a property that we could later use for another school district need? Mm-hmm. How much to redistrict them? I know how important it is to keep your community together.
Your kids, the people that you've gone to school with.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's best for them.
What is it more important to keep them together at a high school, or is it better for those kids to keep them together at another school where there's 200 other kids their age?
There just weren't any options put forth. You brought up an interesting topic, again, related to fiscal accountability and transparency on behalf of the district. There was an $11 million bond initiative that you and I were discussing prior to rolling tape. Do you feel like there might have been some miscommunication or maybe a lack of transparency on behalf of the board with a building that maybe the district thought that they owned, but the taxpayers decided to put some money into something that they didn't own? Exactly. Maybe you could shed some light on that for the voters.
It's interesting. The operations annex was housed off Pacheco on a street called Trinity, and they are making lease payments to purchase this building. That's what they thought. They passed a bond. They presented a bond to the people of Las Cruces that we want to present an $11 million bond to actually make this a complete operations facility for the entire district. We need $11 million to complete it and make it housed in one operation, one location. It was approved. Comes to find out, we don't own that building.
Oh my, that's a problem.
Yeah, we don't own that building. When they thought that everything was said and done, the owner of the property said, yeah, you were making payments on it, but there's a balloon payment, and kicked us to the curb on that around holiday time last year, and kicked us to the curb and said, and now we're going through a lawsuit because we should have known if we owned that building or not. That is something that we should be accountable and responsible for knowing. If we own property, where, why, and how, and especially if we're going to put an $11 million bond towards it.
Sure. And as a school board member, you've been forthright about you don't have direct oversight into teacher salaries, instruction, but you do have direct oversight into that budget and how that money would have been spent.
Yeah, in the powers that be, the policies and procedures, board powers and responsibilities, acquire and dispose of property, number 4.
It's directly the responsibility of the school board. Yeah. We have more time with Maria coming up after the break. We're back after a bit.
There you go.
So great. You can do all these different gears like one hand.
Okay.
Nice.
Guys, not all.
I'm Maria Pacheco. I'm running for school board in District 5 for the Las Cruces Public Schools. I've been a community advocate for the last 25 years in our community. I've helped raise over $750,000 with many charitable organizations here in Las Cruces. I am an advocate for teachers and students, and I would appreciate your vote on November 5th. You can watch me now on the Candidates Forum live, the Las Cruces Channel Facebook page, Sunday at 8:30. Thank you.
Horizon Granite is here. We'll come to you to customize your kitchen and bathroom with beautiful countertops and cabinets. Find out more at horizongranite.com. Call us at 575-650-3180.
Horizon Granite is here.
It's here.
Make yourself a beautiful home.
Hi, I'm Ray Bamberg with Here on Earth. I would like to invite you for a free hearing evaluation to our office. We've been here in southern New Mexico for 34 years helping people hear better.
And we're back. Thanks again for joining us for the Candidates Forum, our second installment with Maria Pacheco. She is your candidate for Las Cruces School Board District 5. Hi again.
Hello.
Before we went to break, we were talking about your platform for fiscal transparency, fiscal accountability and transparency on behalf of the board. Unfortunately, the school board found itself in a sticky situation with an $11 million bond initiative that, in essence, was kind of wasted for lack of oversight. There have been some other sticky situations that the current school district has found itself in as a result of our former superintendent. Talk a little bit to the voters about what those lawsuits are, how they could impact our district, and what you as a board member could do to sort of bridge those gaps a little in the future.
Okay, I will, and I just want to briefly say on the $11 million bond, that money is now being, I was being told that that money is now going to be allocated towards the construction of Columbia.
So all is not lost.
Well, it's not lost, but it's not certainly not what the voters voted it in for.
That's
so
important to know.
You know, so they voted it in for one reason, and it's now being used another. Of course, it's not lost, but it will now be going to be used for the construction of Columbia. You know, with our most recent administration, there has been I know the public is aware of the extra, I want to say the tremendous amount of lawsuits that are going through this district. I've lived here 25 years, and I find it very surprising to see so many lawsuits coming through the district right now. From former employees being wrongfully terminated, they believe. I mean, this is all
allegedly,
yes,
and it's to be determined in a court of law. It's important to point that out. But I think the reason we bring it up is, as a board member, you again have oversight in that budget and where the money should be spent versus where it's now going to have to be spent as a result of these lawsuits, and possibly.
Yes, and we do. I mean, the board has an insurance policy that would pay for these lawsuits. It's not going to come directly out of district money, but we end up having more than likely increased premiums. As you know, when you have claims on an insurance policies, your policy premiums go up. What's concerning about it is that the administration, the atmosphere that these employees are working in, the atmosphere that teachers are working in, it's a very hostile environment. Teachers have asked me to not say their names because they are afraid of retaliation. I had a friend not want to take a picture with me at one point because she was afraid that the superintendent might see it at one point and you know, have her on his radar, which is sad. It really is. So I think that atmosphere of working in that atmosphere, it's depressing for our educators, and we need to treat them with so much more professionalism. They need to feel confident and supported in their work environment. And I think that is important for the school board to work with the administration to build that up and to make sure that our teachers are treated professionally and feel supportive in a work environment. I also feel that in light of his recent resignation, and now that he is possibly going to sue the district because he feels that he was discriminated against and with a hostile work environment. It just kind of baffles me, because that is the atmosphere that he created. That is the environment.
He was the leader of the school district.
That's what he created, and to say now, look, I'm victim of that too, is very shocking to me. I'm surprised by all of that. But I just know that these teachers, he brought in outside people. He made positions available. He filled positions at central office that there was never a job for them before. I understand, positions filled by people not qualified for them. He moved things around. I think that when you come in and do that, and then the educators are here, they don't feel their value.
Sure. Well, they've vested their career, their education, their time, their expertise into schools that they love, and to feel like they've been overlooked for a position that might have been available would be absolutely demeaning. We talked earlier about your involvement in the school districts through your son, through the PTO organizations that you have so generously helped. You've heard some of this feedback from the teachers that you've supported. Do you feel that the environment from the former administration helped to contribute to a teacher shortage in the district?
Well, I don't think it helped, for sure, because I don't think that people were applying for jobs in the district for a number of reasons. It might have had to do a little bit with the atmosphere, that culture that was created when he moved in. But I think the teacher shortage has more to do with them not getting the resources that they need to be successful in the classroom. I also believe that they're not being adequately compensated for the work that they do for our students.
That's probably a nationwide trend.
It is.
We've seen that. Again, nationwide, teachers have taken to the streets to bring attention to that. You had a vision for the school board if you are elected. When you are elected, let's be positive about this. There is a student rep on the school board, and you had an idea to try to loop in another voice on that board. Talk to the voters about what that idea is.
Well, here's the deal. I am all about communication and transparency. If you've known me, and if you don't know me, ask somebody. I am all about keeping everybody.
You'll tell people how you feel. You'll tell people what your plan is, and you'll ask them for their opinion.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I was thinking. So the school board currently has a position for a student representative that sits on the school board to offer input. I thought, gosh, how wonderful would it be to have a teacher representative on the school board to ask, so that they're not fearful of speaking up, and that their opinion actually matters, and that they may have a voice. I would love it if we could have a teacher from every level, elementary, middle school, and high school on the board. I don't know if that's possible, but it certainly would be opportunity to hear more opinions, more input, more ideas on how we can make our district more successful for teachers, more successful for our kiddos, more transparent for our stakeholders, and everybody's in the loop. Everybody feels like they have, what did you call it, skin in the game.
Absolutely. Well, that's the idea, isn't it? I mean, you're running on a platform of children first.
Yeah.
And as the school board sits right now, what is the direct correlation to the classroom? There's a board that represents all of us, taxpayers and parents and constituents. There is the administration, but the link in the classroom right now as a student rep, we don't have that teacher voice yet.
I agree.
And what a breath of fresh air it would be. And I can imagine for the teachers to be able to say, that's my representative, she or he is my voice on the board.
And we have union representation that visits with the board and works closely with the district. But I think it's important to have the teachers themselves have a voice and a say in the going-ons that happen on the board and a voice in that.
We're almost out of time, but in our final few minutes, what do you feel if you had 1 minute to talk to that voter? And by the way, the voter turnout, we have about 3. The voter turnout during the last election in your district, District 5, where there are 24,000 voters, was only about 1,000 people who turned out. That's embarrassing, District 5. We need you to come out and vote. We need you to come out and vote for Maria. But what are your main priorities for somebody voting for you? What will you bring to that board?
I will bring transparency. I will bring communication. I will make informed decisions as I promise to do that. I won't vote on anything that I am not fully aware of how I am voting and the outcome that will come from my vote. The thing is we've got to be made aware that even if you may not agree with my vote, you will understand how I came to my vote. And I will always make all my decisions with the entire students and teachers and district in mind. That will be my promise to the voting public.
For those of us who have worked so closely with you and so many nonprofit charitable contributions to our community, I can say that that is absolutely who you are.
Thank you.
Lastly, we touched briefly on safety. I know that we don't have a whole lot of time to talk about it, but is there anything that the board can be doing to ensure safety in our schools? And I know it's a broad topic.
It is a broad topic. I just think that what has already been determined to be a safety concern in our school needs to be addressed.
Right.
I was at Sonoma Elementary the other day, and it was as simple as blinds in a library that they didn't have those in case of a active shooter or anything like that. Simple things. Let's get the things that are on the list done. I know it's important in every area. Everybody should be safe that works for the district, but we need to get the list, the checkoff list done at the public schools.
Top of mind mentality.
Yeah.
In this day and age, you always have to make sure that you check that box.
Yeah.
Safety in our schools is always a priority. Fiscal accountability, transparency. We've been visiting with Maria Pacheco. She is your District 5 candidate for the Las Cruces School Board. We're about out of time, but real quickly, don't forget that early voting started on October the 8th, so you can vote now, or you can wait until November the 5th, which is Election Day here in Doñana County. You can vote at our main polling location at the Doñana County Government Center, 845 North Motel Boulevard, or you can go to doñanacounty.org for a list of all voting convenience centers in Doñana County if you don't know where your district is. Again, we've been visiting with Maria Pacheco. She is your candidate in Las Cruces, District 5 for School Board. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Maria Pacheco, and I approve this message. Patty Olson, Treasurer.